This is the kind of movie, you know exactly what you're going for. This is Godzilla and King Kong and a couple of monsters, kaijus beating the crap out of each other, and that's what we expected, and that's exactly what we got. There is very little depth in terms of screenplay. There's very little depth in terms of story. Actually, the story is kind of convoluted. You can't quite follow what's happening. You just know that they are cool creatures. There are really cool creatures in this movie, but you can't really quite tell why the creatures are there. There's some elements about this movie that I explained about the little girl who was in the previous movie, that you go like, okay, so she can do some of the stuff that she's doing, and whatever she does actually, reveals another, but we'll get to that. But yeah, this is not the kind of movie that you'll go into thinking that it's going to be a Scorsese or a Christopher Nolan kind of a movie. It very much falls in line with the previous movie, Godzilla vs. Kong. The tone of that movie, the action set pieces in that movie, but in this particular movie, they went with an introduction to more monsters. The last movie promised a lot. It promised that we were going to the underworld or whatever, and we were going to meet all these other creatures, and we are going to meet this other fantastical world. There is an element of that. There are really all these dynamic creatures that have all these different designs that are presented in the movie. Most of it is just for the sake of it, but some creatures here have actually a role to play, especially the villain. There's this orangutan who is pretty cool. I liked the character, plus another character. I don't want to spoil for people, but it's more of ice. Think of ice, think of Godzilla, and think of ice. Let me just put it that way. So you have this other villain who ran this place. And this is the thing. When it comes to scale, unlike the last movie, this movie actually is very trippy in terms of scale, because during like the first and second act, you are in the underground world, right? And so you're looking at all these creatures, and their scale is them versus them. So you can't quite tell. They feel big. When they run over trees, they feel big, but you don't quite have a scope of, their true size in relation to human beings. Here's where it gets interesting. There's another small orangutan that's introduced. He has a very interesting arc. I like the way they introduced him, because naturally with these kind of movies, they have this easy way of introducing smaller characters. They have a very soft way of introducing small characters. But in this, they were like, they gave that small character a proper arc, and he actually has a very big role in the movie. Not big, an essential role in the film. So anyway, as I was saying, when that character is introduced, it is scale against Kong, and by now no human being is introduced during that period, so you don't have a quite good understanding of the scale of that small character. So when Kong is there, who is actually really big, yeah, it feels like a kid. But my goodness, during the third scene when they land in Brazil, that totally flips, because that small, orangutan that you are looking at is like a gigantic little creature. He's small and stuff, but in relation to what we have on the surface, like buildings and stuff, he stands tall more than a 5-story building. And then Kong and the other orangutan, which, here's the funny thing, now the villain, the bad orangutan, when he stands against Kong, he's actually reasonably, shorter, but he's more flexible, but he is shorter. When you're introduced to him, you feel that this is a smaller creature. You go like, this is much smaller than Kong is. But when they, go up in the surface during the third act, you just get an idea of how big this creature is. And then now that just changes your perspective on the size of Kong, because Kong stands above them, and so now he's actually bigger than life. I really, really love that about this movie. The other creature that I don't want to talk about, when he's also introduced in relation to all these other creatures, doesn't feel that big. But when that happens, you just understand just how huge he is. And so those are the elements that I liked about this movie. Big monsters, kaiju. It's basically a kaiju movie, but much more flexible, much faster. So the action set pieces the third act is absolutely bonkers. I mean, but with now this more flexible, more nimble kaijus who The third act is insane in this movie. Actually, the third act is why you went for this movie. These other two acts are there to set things up. You have a lot of going to the surface, coming back, going to the surface, coming back, then eventually going to the surface. And then you have all these small characters trying to introduce. Yes, the main characters have been toned down. Millie Bobby Brown is not in the movie. There's Skarsgård, who was not in the movie. There are all these other bigger characters that are not there. But then they introduce other characters, especially when you go down and you now meet the people who live within this particular world. Once you meet them, it becomes about trying to understand them, trying to look at this world, trying to understand their world, trying to understand how their world works. So we get to follow the main characters as they meet these new tribes, and then we get to learn about that particular world. So this first and second act is more, it's everywhere. Everything seems everywhere because you have to bring in the main characters into this world and introduce them to everything, give them an idea of whatever is happening. So that takes a lot of time it just drags the movie down. But there are every now and then some very, very good kaiju action set pieces. There is one with the villain, with the orangutan and Kong. Whatever happens to his hand happens. That was pretty cool. There is a Godzilla and Kong fight scene somewhere in Egypt, which was also very, 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 very destructive and very, very cool. There are very, very good shots of Godzilla basically sometimes just jumping. There's something that they do during the beginning of the third act whereby something happens to gravity, and then you have all this beautiful motion because of just how the environment is. Now, there are characters who are here that you wouldn't expect. I think we've all seen this poster. There is more to this poster than what you're seeing. And there's another character that was added from not the previous movie, the movie before that. There's a character from that particular movie who is in this movie thanks to the little girl, because she's very special. She can do some very, very interesting things. I don't want to spoil the movie for people. So it's a nice surprise when that character comes in. The character plays a very big role in some elements, not during the third act, but during the middle part. And so in helping save some of the characters within the movie. So is this the kind of movie that I would ask you to pay to go watch in 3D? Yes, of course. It's a fantastic cinematic experience. It's a kind of experience that you don't go in to wrap your mind around. It's a very fantastic outing with your friends. It's a very fantastic outing with your family. Kids will have a very good time with this movie. You'll be surprised, because when I say kids, you probably assume that they're going to do with that little character something that aligns with what you'd expect them to do in a movie that has a younger character. But you'll be surprised with what they try to do with the character, because they still maintain the tone of Kong Skull Island. That, it's not a very easy place to exist kind of tone. So they try to maintain that particular tone. So this is a great movie, fantastic visual effects, outdid themselves, especially with some scenes in Spain. Is it Italy or Spain? There's one with the giant thing that looks like a crab. That was pretty cool. Not a very big action set piece, but the way it's shot and the fact that it's shot during the day, it's very, very clear. There are a lot of clear shots in this movie. You don't have that. If you remember the previous movie, Godzilla versus Kong, there were some scenes that looked kind of dodgy. Yeah? They were not shot very well. They kind of felt dark. There's a lot of very bright shots during the day. So this is as I was saying, family experience. Kids will absolutely love this. They will. It's the action. There are some moments that are absolutely memorable. Let me just put it that way. There's some like super awesome cool shots with especially Kong with this other orangutan creature, who I like the fact that they gave a personality. They don't talk. And this is the other weird thing that I like about this as I finish this video. There's a lot of visual communication during the last part of this movie, the second half. You don't have a lot of talking with these particular creatures. They just gesture, they just symbolize, and it just maintains a weird, whereby you can understand each character based on how they behave. They were able to actually knock that out of the park, because there are a lot of expressions that you can actually read as a human being. They utilize Kong's facial expression to sell, a feeling or emote. And so, yeah, this makes for a very, very interesting viewing. So basically that's it. Yes, I will give this a 4. I had a great time. Compared to the last one, I felt that this was much better in giving me a sense of adventure, because even when you go into that underworld world, it looks fantastic. It's a concept art in motion. There's these places with crystals. They are shot very well. If you watch it in a small screen, I don't think that you'll get the same effect with what you get in the big screen, because you have moments whereby you have these large crystals and then you have small people walking in the background, or you have the little girl climbing something, and it's super huge and it's super small, and so the way it's framed, it works well on a bigger screen. I don't know if I'm making sense. Now, if you are to ask me, why did I not give this a 5? Yeah, there are some moments that you go, especially the first, second act. Oh, there are moments that you go like, why? Especially there's one that Kong fights this dragon-like thing, the pink, the pink look. He usually, the thing about Godzilla is that he gets triggered by any other kaiju that appears, and so he's triggered during this one particular point where he goes all blue. He's trying to destroy something, and then he goes into this island whereby there is a certain dragon that is pink, and so he fights the dragon and then destroys it, and then he goes in and then starts absorbing this pink thing. That was not well explained. I did not understand what the hell was going on with that particular scene. I did not think that it was necessary, because it didn't make any sense at all. The fact that he had the pink stuff did not make him better or worse. It did not make Godzilla anything different from what he already was. It didn't add any value to himself. It didn't add value to Godzilla. It didn't add value to the story. I don't understand why that was there. So basically, yeah, I think that was an excuse to actually have a pink, to use the color pink in a way. Because, I mean, if he kills the dragon, why then would he go to hibernate inside that place? It didn't. I didn't get it. I hope you guys got it. If you've watched the movie and you actually got why after killing that creature he had to go inside there and take a nap, just leave it on the comment section. They say Godzilla x Kong, but this was more of a King Kong story. Yeah, this was more of King Kong, because that's who we follow for the majority of the part. So basically that's it. Remember to always watch what you enjoy and enjoy what you watch. Thanks for watching this. I'm on a arc to 100k. This is one of those moments that most YouTubers don't look at. They don't look at where they began. Yeah, you have some that actually talk about it, but most of them actually kind of not, bookmark some steps. So for me, this is a moment that I'm bookmarking this period. I'm at 500 and something subscribers, and hopefully with time I'll get to 100k. So we are already on that journey. So I invite you to subscribe so that when you get to that 100 subscribers, you can actually look back at this particular moment and see if you have evolved or if I have evolved. Have we become better people? Have we become worse people? Are we still in this particular space? Are we still talking about movies? So basically, I invite you to subscribe, please. And thanks for watching this. I hope to see you on the next one.